You're listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast, a Texas Tech athletics podcast where food and sports clash at the goal line. Here are your hosts, Spencer and Michael.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 23 Personnel Podcast. I am your host, Spencer, joined by Michael. Michael, what's up, man?
Did anything of note happen after Thursday? I would just like to focus on Thursday if at all possible. I'm not really sure if we need to discuss anything beyond that.
Grayson won his first baseball game of the season last night.
Okay.
So 1 and 2
that
on
is
the season.
important. Yeah, we should discuss that.
So we can talk about the old Express here, taking down the Iron Pigs.
That's a great name.
So there are 5 teams in Grayson's division, and the Express is the most legitimate name of anybody. I'm just going to be straight with everybody.
I mean, Iron Pigs is legit.
Yeah, so they're Iron Pigs, the Express, the Mammoths,
okay,
the Pelicans, and the Flapjacks.
The Flapjacks. Okay. I don't know. That might be my favorite.
We've lost so far to the Pelicans and the Flapjacks.
But you've won.
Including on Saturday night. There was that was a double doozy. We were, I'd say mid-game. We were nearing the end of Grayson's game as that game was getting late. And legitimate, I wouldn't say pauses in the baseball game, but the umpires, one of them specifically, had the game streaming on his phone in his hand. Just gonna say, there were times where there was a break in the action, the phone was out of his pocket and he was watching it. The Gamecast stream through the ESPN app was probably a full possession ahead of the stream. So they're like, oh, it's tied. It's like, no, it's not.
Well, I think.
Oh, we have the ball.
I don't want to spoil it yet, but I missed tip off. I didn't really have an excuse for it, but I'll tell you why way later in the game. But the good news was I got to miss a birthday party, which is at 5:30, and it was very nice of my wife to just say, "Hey, I'll fly solo in this. You're good. You stay home. You watch the game." I was like, "Man, you're the best." And I knew it was a bad sign for her and a good decision by me when she texted me at about 5:33. Hey, what channel is the game on?
Oh no.
And the people working the TV did not know how to do that. And the whole time my wife was like, you guys have Cartoon Network on here all the time. You have cable. Yeah, I don't know. 20-somethings learn how to work cable. That there are numbers involved. You can just type 34 or whatever and it'll go to a channel. Not everything is a streaming app. I wonder if she thought, yeah, we don't have the TBS streaming app. You don't need it. Go to the channel. But anyway, one of the dads there had an iPad with the game on, so
nice.
She was able to keep up a little bit. But anywho, I guess we should start with Thursday. All kidding aside, Thursday was fantastic. It was a heartbreaker / hang on a minute / OMFG, we did it kind of evening.
It was comically bad for Texas Tech to start this game. Whatever it was shooting wise, especially from 3. Let me think. Hold on. Let me find the box score maybe.
Well, yeah.
Okay, here we go. Texas Tech was 3 of 16 from 3, but the last shot of the half was a 3. So, I mean, I don't know what the string was, but you were very nearly 2 for 15 for the first half. 12 of 34, just general shooting. You had attempted 5 free throws. You were 4 or 5. You finished regulation only attempting 11 free throws. It's not fantastic work there, getting to the stripe there. But despite that, and despite Arkansas going on what would have been their best shooting at least half of the season, you were down by 7.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it was almost comical how badly you were missing shots and how badly you were missing Chance McMillan. Even just the spark of his presence may have adjusted how that game played out. Second half opens up. Arkansas slowly builds on their lead out to 16 points. And I never turned the game off, but I was frustrated. I was like, this is how it's going to go. We're going to just shoot ourselves completely out of this game and let a historically good shooting night do a sin. I was like, I guess if that's how it's going to have to be. But then, Michael, your defense started slowing them down. You hit, what was it, 3 threes and 3 straight possessions or something like that?
I believe so. I think Anderson had 2, and
Henderson had 2. D5 had 1.
yep.
He had a comically bad shooting night, whatever it ended up being. D5, 8 of 26 from the field, 2 of 10 from 3. Anderson ended up 3 of 9 from 3. Elijah Hawkins, 1 of 7 from 3, 1 of 10 from the field. He played all 45 minutes and ended the game with 4 points. I think, Michael, that 3 came with like 2 minutes left in overtime.
Yeah, it was.
He
That's
finished regulation with 1 point.
That's crazy about all this. Tech was scraping by, just by the thinnest of margins. That every bucket you mentioned just now felt huge. Every single one. Darian Williams only made 8. I swear they were all in the last 7 minutes of the game. I don't know if that's true, but that's just how it feels, because it feels like they came right when they needed to come, and they showed up. Hawkins also, rough night. I'm glad that wasn't his last game. He also had 5 turnovers, really uncharacteristic of him. Arkansas's length, as was described on the broadcast over and over, was really hard to gauge, apparently. And those lazy passes were just not going to cut it. That was made obvious early on, but the mistakes kept being made, and I really felt for him to have such an awful night all around. At one point, I admit I was kind of hopeful that he would foul out, because I think he played like the last 8 minutes of the game with 4 fouls. But I'm glad he didn't. One, because he made that huge 3. I think he had a couple of good key assists later. I mean, he's obviously a really good player, just had a bad night, like most of his team.
Yeah. You had 3 players score 20-plus points almost quietly. I don't want to overlook Kevin Overton carrying this team in the first half. Let's be honest, like his 12 points, I think all 12 came in the first half. I think he hit the first 3 of the game. My goodness, like had Overton not provided that spark, he ended up 5 of 11 from the field, so just under 50%, 2 of 4 from 3, added 7 rebounds. Like, dude was everywhere, and was very critical in keeping you in this game. Like I said, quiet 12 points from him. I think at least 10 of those came really close together in a spot in the first half where he didn't allow Arkansas to run away and just build a just stupid lead on you. Kerwin Walton, apparently he just was unplayable on defense, attempted only 1 shot. Um, 11 minutes, 2 fouls, 1 rebound, 1 shot, 1 steal. Fetty played 12 minutes. Maybe the turning point of the
Whoa.
game.
I think it was. I really do.
He finished perfect from the field, 3 of 3, 1 of 2 from the free throw line. Added 9 rebounds. Probably 8 of those rebounds came in at one stretch. Let's see if I can find it really quickly. It's in the second half, and it was just ridiculous. And it was when Texas Tech started their little run.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if I can get there. 9 minutes. Here
It
it
was
is. Okay.
8 and change. Yep.
Starting at 9:02, missed free throw by Fetty. Rebound, Kevin Overton. Missed layup by Overton. Rebound by Overton. Missed jumper by Overton. Rebound by Fetty. Missed three-pointer by C4. Rebound by Fetty. Missed three-pointer by Elijah Hawkins. Rebound by Fetty. Missed layup by D5. Rebound by Fetty. Tip in good. Federico. In a stretch of 45 seconds, literally, exactly 45 seconds, Federico missed a free throw, added in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rebounds. I thought I was joking. No, 5 rebounds in 45 seconds, and gave you how many second chances? I mean, if you
3,
count
and then he made one of them.
if you count every shot that came after the missed free throw, I mean,
Yeah.
Overton missed a shot. Overton missed a shot. Anderson missed a shot. Hawkins missed a shot. D5. 5 missed shots after his missed that missed free throw. Until you get the tip in, excuse me. And at that point, it gets you down 11. Like it wasn't even like this puts you within like a 1 or 2 possession game. No, you were still down 11, but like at that point, demonstrated, showed your fight was still there. You were not stepping down. You were not leaving. Arkansas follows that up with a timeout. They sub a couple of guys, miss a three-pointer within 5 seconds. Texas Tech rebounds. Fetty dunk. Like, okay, so going back another, when did that last possession end? 8:17, 7:41. 30 seconds later, he's still, very much a part of what's happening now. That gets you down 9. Arkansas miss. Kevin Overton rebound. Layup good by D5. Now you're down 7. Adu for Arkansas hits a 2. We miss a shot, but it's rebounded and then fouled. Christian Anderson hits 2 free throws, gets us back within 7. There's a little bit of a stretch here between the next scoring. Like he went almost a full minute in game time without anybody scoring. Got a couple of free throws good for Arkansas to put them up 11. 5:22 to go. You're down 11 again. They hit a layup to go up 13. 4:43. You're down to 13 points with 4:43 left. Christian Anderson hits a 3, gets you down 10. Arkansas turns the ball over on their next possession. Steal by D5. Elijah Hawkins misses a 3. We get a rebound. Arkansas calls a timeout. Texas Tech makes a layup out of that timeout. Now you're down 8. They attempt 2 3-pointers, miss them both. JT Toppin gets a rebound. Layup D5, down 6, 2:40 to go. Arkansas misses a 3. JT Toppin rebounds. Christian Anderson hits a 3. Now you're down 3 with 2:06 to go. So in 240 of game time, you went down 13 to down 10. You erased a 10-point deficit, or 10 points of the deficit. Timeout by Arkansas. They're getting a little antsy. You can feel it. You can see it. They're tightening up. Texas Tech is finding some momentum and some swagger from the offensive side. Arkansas misses a jump shot, blocked. Essentially, it was in the GameCast here noted that it was a block by JT Toppin. Unfortunately, they do get the rebound off that block, makes a three, and man, at that point, I was like, oh no, their little stretch of missing is come to an end, because you hit a three, you get a block, but they get the ball back, and then they hit a three, and you're like, it's just deflating, man. I was like, oh shoot, that's where it ends. So 128, they hit a three, back up 6. And then you miss on your next possession, you miss a three. Arkansas gets the ball back. I was like, oh, that's church, man. That's how it ends. No. D5, 4 seconds later, steals the ball. Christian Anderson, 3-pointer, back down by 3 with 107. So within 15 seconds of game time, I was like, man, that sucks. You're out of it. It's like,
yeah,
we ain't dead yet, brother.
Yeah, at least we fought back. At least we battled back. We're talking about, oh, no. Oh, we're back. Never mind.
Yeah, you love to see, especially after those smug comments Calipari said to the sideline reporter, we're up 16, but I got to get in the huddle. Ha, 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 ha. And then I can't remember who was, I think it was Bonner. Was like, well, they're not going to start the timeout clock unless you're in there. Whatever, dude. And then just to see his just like face. Every time they showed Calipari on the sideline, same stupid face. He couldn't believe it, which is just fascinating. Next possession, Arkansas misses a layup, blocked by JT Toppin. So 2 very key blocks here the last minute. They miss a 3. Texas Tech gets the ball back. They miss a 3. Arkansas has possession. We foul, down 3, 28 seconds to go. Adu misses the front of a 1-and-1.
Mm-hmm. This will hurt
Poetic.
more later.
It's poetic.
It kind of is. It kind of is.
Christian Anderson grabs the rebound. D5 hits the 3 with 9 seconds to go in regulation to tie it. And Texas Tech calls a timeout.
And hats off to D5 for hitting the 3 in such a way that they actually had to review if the clock was correct, because it rattled around at the rim long enough and took some more time off the clock, which I know was intentional. I know that he's been practicing that shot. He's been working on it. Great time to execute it. Just really, really good point, because there could have been 11 seconds left, and who knows? Who knows what would have happened then?
Yeah. And then you end up +2 in overtime. I'm not going to go play-by-play through overtime. You start with a good layup there. Back and forth. I say back and forth. You go up 2. Arkansas goes up 2. You go up 1 after Elijah Hawkins' 3-pointer. 2:58 left. So his first made field goal of the night comes 2 minutes into overtime. Arkansas hits a pair of free throws to go back up by 1. You hit a couple of free throws to go back up by 1. You hit a JT Toppin field goal. You're up by 3. Arkansas ties. I said it wouldn't go play-by-play, but here I am.
Yeah, I know.
And then
it's okay. We won't do it for the next game.
You can't. I it's too painful. Still, JT Toppin hits a jumper, 102. 30 seconds later, Arkansas hits a field goal to tie it. D5, both at the end of regulation and the end of overtime, he takes the last shot, makes them both to put you up by 2. 7 seconds in overtime, overtime was 7 seconds, regulation was 9. So Arkansas still had a shot to end both the second half and overtime and missed them both. You end up winning. You erased a 16-point deficit, second largest in Sweet 16 history, to eliminate the highest seed remaining in the tournament at that point, to send you on to the Elite Eight, and to take on the number 1 seed in your bracket, the Florida Gators, on Saturday. And then, Michael, tides turn. You get Chance McMillan back. You start off, I would say, hot. Offensively, things are going well. You start the scoring with a 3-pointer from Walton, a second 3-pointer from Walton. D5 hits a 3 a couple of shots later. So like right off the bat, you're like 3 of 4, 3 of 5 from 3. Which is huge coming from the game where you finished the first half 3 of 16. So with Florida, like I said, it was back and forth throughout the first half. Offensively, you were there. You go to halftime down 3, 40-37. So not like, you don't have a lead, but it's a much different feeling than it was in the Sweet 16 game versus Arkansas, because then it was just like nothing was going down. You couldn't do anything. You were thinking, oh my gosh, it's going to take a Herculean effort and come back to make this thing a game. With Florida, you're down 3. You're there. Second half. At this point, I'm at Grayson's game. I'm checking the score every now and then because I wanted to protect myself, Michael. Had
Smart.
Texas Tech had the lead ballooned and you lost in a fashion where Florida ran away with it in the second half, I just would have been like, well, that's kind of how I thought it may have happened, and I would have told myself I told you so. Good job not trying to follow that game and have your heart broken. But I kept checking it. And I kept checking it. And I kept checking it. And I was like, oh my gosh. Texas Tech is up 10.
Yeah.
Like, and late.
Yeah.
Like you got up.
It started with 8 minutes left, pretty much. Tech went up by 10, and then it kind of hung around that way for a while.
Yeah, let me see. You tied it with well, let me see. Because it was probably back and forth. It was. Okay, I skipped ahead. Yeah, I mean, early on in the second half, you tied it, and then it was back and forth for 5 or 6 minutes. Like you'd get up 4 points, then Florida would come back. So you weren't ever able to make a lot of distance there in your lead. But then 11:36, it's tied, and then from there up 4, up 6, up 5, up 4, up 6, up 8, up 10. Okay, so you hit 10 points at 7:49 left. And I'm just like this is getting late, and you're continuing to build. It wasn't like you had built a lead and you're kind of holding them off, which is one thing, which we saw against you saw against Arkansas. They built the lead and just kind of like maintained it for a while. Whereas like late in the game, you were continuing to build and create distance here. And I was believing. And it hung around 10 points. You were up 10 again at 6:18 left.
Up 9 with 3:14.
Up 9 with 3:14. And I've got screenshots, and I hate to go back and like review this and just do this to myself and for everybody else. But I took a screenshot because I was so heartbroken here. Let me. I don't want to read that part yet. There's the stretch that Florida went on to really put it away. Sorry, I have Google Photos acting as a backup, and it's just one of those things where like I can't figure out where um, everything is saved. Okay. What is that time? When Texas Tech is up 75-66, 3:14. Yeah, 3:14 to go. Michael, Texas Tech had a 95.6% chance to win this game, according to ESPN. Let me show you. That's this point over here.
Yeah, that's pretty high.
And then you see how sharply that just drops off.
Yeah.
Like you had built it and gone. Oh, and this one, this little screenshot, this little meme here. Here's the joy and agony of March summed up. It's a screenshot from the top game. It says Texas Tech won this game, and the score bug has Arkansas 69, Texas Tech 56. That's this one.
Oh, yep.
Texas Tech lost this game. Texas Tech 75, Florida 66 at the 250 point. So this is right before the Thomas Huff 3 at 250. I didn't watch this game live. Like I said, I was at the baseball game, and I was trying to whatever. I watched the highlights of this, and even on the highlights, I was like, man, there's some questionable officiating. And I don't know if it was like this way the whole time or just like my perspective through this, but it felt like they were allowing teams to be awfully physical. There were several times like, well, that's a foul, and no whistle came. I was like, interesting. Okay, starting from 250. Thomas, is it Hoff? Whatever his name is. Number 10 for Florida. Hits a 3 to get it to 69-75. 227. Howe hits another 3 to get it 75-72. So 6 points. 40 seconds later, Walter Clayton Jr. hits a 3 to tie it. So in the span of a minute, you go up 9 to tied. Darian Williams hits a layup at 123, go up 2 points. Walter Clayton Jr. hits a 3 with a minute to go up by 1. Elijah Martin hits 2 free throws to go up by 3. Walton Clayton Jr. hits 2 free throws to go up by 5. With 10 seconds to go, Chance McMillan hits a layup to get within 3. Will Richard hits 2 free throws to go back up by 5. And I know as much as, obviously, if you can do it, it can happen to you.
Yes.
And it's just like, it's one of those things where you felt like you didn't play your best game on Thursday, and then you found a way, you tough it out, you get the win. You're like, okay, we're it wasn't pretty, but we found a way to win, to play some of Texas Tech brand basketball there at the end to get back on top. You come out, you're playing good basketball versus Florida. You build a lead, and then everything just goes in for Florida, and you're just like, they're allowed to play super aggressive. Huff there played the last 20 minutes of that game with 4 fouls or whatever it was. Had he fouled out, maybe that would have been different. I mean, Walter Clayton Jr. was still he was still a thing. Probably quietest 30-point game you'll hear.
Well, yeah, 13 of them were free throws, so that's part of it too. They only missed 2 free throws on the night. They were 25 of 27. Meanwhile, Texas Tech shot a whopping 13. I think that's something I'd like to see improve next season. Be a little bit more aggressive, get to the line. But what was working was working. I mean, Darian Williams, what Florida basically was doing was just daring him to post up one-on-one against every player, and he was doing it, and he was making them look foolish.
You win with 38 points in the paint.
Yeah, he was 9 of 18 on the night. Toppin kind of had a rough stretch. I believe it was maybe right after the second half started. and McCaslin benched him for a few minutes. I don't know what happened, but when he came back out, he was playing. Um, I don't know if he was down on himself or who knows. I have no idea. But he came out, recorded another little double double, as he's wont to do with 11 rebounds and 20 points. But Williams is as poorly as Williams shot the game before. He was 9 of 18 from the field. He was 50%, man, from the field in this game. Only shot 3 free throws. We can we can harp on the free throws if we want. I kind of don't want to because Toppin and Williams were the reason you were in that game in the end. I know they missed the front end of some one-on-ones. Okay, that could have changed things obviously in the last few minutes, but these are also the guys that won the game for you the night before too, or 2 nights before. So I don't want to go too far into that, but you know, just saying obvious things. Toppin was 0 for 5 from the free throw line,
Yep.
including the front end of a 1-and-1. Not great. The only one that Williams missed was the front end of 1-and-1, so he was 2 of
Mhm.
3 otherwise. But
Everybody
man, it
else is
was
perfect.
yeah, yeah. Uh, just a really tough fought game. I think as good as Walker Clayton Jr. is, I think he was having a rough night until those last few minutes. As far as from three, he was 3 of 8, and I think he made all 3 of them in the last few minutes. Tell me if you heard that
Mhm.
before. That happened 2 days ago when Texas Tech did the same thing pretty much with Christian Anderson and Darian Williams. So, like you said, it doesn't make it easier. It doesn't make it a well. We just did the same thing in Arkansas. That doesn't make me feel better. It still stings to get that close, and where you could just about taste it with 3 minutes left, and you're up by almost 10. Almost 10. 9 is almost 10. That's a true fact. But oh man, it hurt. It was rough. I thought I was over it, and then I was listening to a podcast today and they started talking about it, and I immediately was decided, nope, I'm not. I just have avoided the subject for 4 days. And now I'm forced to talk about it with you, which is good, but it's not easy still.
Yeah. You know what? Like, so Huff, whatever his name is, picked up his fourth foul with 2:43 to go. And that was after his three that kind of ignited their little run there. So he hits a three at 2:50 to get it 75-69. Then he fouls 7 seconds later. He picks up his fourth foul. And he stays on the court the rest of the game. Like you couldn't run at him. The dude was 4 of 6 from three. He was killing you.
Yeah, that's
You,
a good
you.
point. I just don't think they trusted anybody but Williams in those last few minutes, and maybe Toppin.
And they had been doing it for you all season. Or yes, D5 did miss game winner, game tires early in the season. But since February, he has been your late game, we need a bucket guy. He's been the guy. And it had worked until Saturday.
Well, and there were some good looks there towards the end. They just
They
didn't
weren't
go
bad.
in.
Yeah.
They really were. I mean, I felt like
Florida took worse shots. They just went in
Mhm.
for them.
Yeah, yeah, one of those.
Like that one
Gosh,
from Walter Clayton, like he got
oh,
the
it's
rebound,
wild.
ran back to the three, shot it falling away.
Basically,
And
did like a post move at the top of the key or something, like a turned back towards the basket. Yeah, it was nuts.
yeah.
And it of course it went in. Of course it did.
Oh, it was pure. It flushed.
Yeah, just beautiful.
Hmm.
But I
It
mean,
wasn't beautiful, but
for McMillan to come back, I'm so glad that he was able to come back. One, to had the performance he did, especially, he's still hurting. He's not 100%, but to put up 14 points coming off the bench, getting 26 minutes in there, 5 of 11 from the field, 2 of 5 from three, hit both his free throws. Just, I mean, a really good spark. Just, I think that team felt more loose with him out there. I think they felt like they just had more opportunities, more options offensively for sure. And he does provide that spark. So I was glad that he didn't, he got to come back and play a game. I wish it would have been a win. I wish he would have gotten to play a couple more as a Red Raider, but at least he did finish. He went down fighting, and that's for sure. I mean, it was a big part of this game.
Yeah. And I'm sure I would have told you it would have sucked even just a different way had you lost, not in this fashion.
Yeah, we would have.
But being up
There's
10,
no way. Yeah.
being in a spot where you're up 9 with a 95% chance to win this game with 3 minutes to go. It sucks, man.
It does. And some
Sucks.
absolute miracle threes go in. Tech's getting off good shots. They're just not falling. Just helpless feeling. Just free throws not going down. It's tough. Just a lot of missed opportunities there. But even when Williams was missing the game winners that we talked about a few minutes ago, that was still who I wanted taking him. Even then, and he had some good shots there towards the end. They just weren't going down.
Mm-mm. Well, that is a wrap on this basketball season. You finished 28-9. You go 3-1 in the big dance, defeating UNC Wilmington, Drake, Arkansas, and then losing to Florida. Had you advanced past Florida, you would have taken on Auburn. I mean, that would have been a tough matchup too. But it would have been quite the takeover and party of Red Raiders down in San Antonio, because we would have filled that place out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it'll still be unbelievable atmosphere for Florida, Auburn, Houston, and Duke, but it would have been something else had Texas Tech been there. And shoot, like, you make it through the Elite Eight, which some people said is one of the most difficult games to win, because you're playing probably the toughest opponent you've faced all season on the shortest rest. You're on a 1-day rest. You play Thursday, you play Saturday.
Well, Thursday, historically, your Thursday game is probably not a cakewalk either.
No, and it wasn't for Texas Tech.
Yeah, case in point with an overtime 2-point battle roaring back on a 16-3 run to end the game or the end regulation.
So, I mean, it's a step up in competition. And of course, everybody's going to use this to say, "Oh, I told you so." The Texas Tech was they weren't supposed to be there. They had a cakewalk into the Elite Eight at 14, 11, and a 10, and they finally played somebody with a heartbeat and they lost. That's not true.
No, Florida was beating the crap out of people.
Yeah,
that did not happen Saturday.
It took a heroic run from them to beat you. Anyway, I could you imagine though, Michael? Just we're gonna play a hypothetical game.
Mm-hmm.
You match up with Kelvin Sampson in Houston on that Monday night.
I don't know how many fights would have broken out in the stands.
Just like while the game is going on, just pans
Sure.
around. It's like just hockey league fights going on, and everybody's throwing punches. The game's still going. Nobody's watching it because it's just fist fighting everywhere you look in the stands.
That would have been great. I would have absolutely loved that. One, because we would get a third chance at them. We would settle the score. We were 1-1 on the season. Okay, let's go full strength, neutral site. Let's finish this. Let's see how this goes. I mean, and obviously, national championship on the line would have been more important than just trying to go 2-1 versus Houston in a season. But that was the first thing that came to my mind was Well, one, I just want to beat them. Just want to end with a winning record. Oh, it's the national championship game. Okay, great. That's good. That's good too. We'll take it.
Yeah. So you finish the season and you're in kind of a weird spot. You've got this very quick turnaround time to get players re-signed, re-upped with NIL deals. Depending on who says what they all believe, it could be you've got a week to get current players re-signed before the ruling comes out next week about revenue sharing and how all that's going to change. But you've got between now and, is it June 30th or the end of May? I think it's June 30th to pay out your NIL stuff before revenue sharing kicks in. And you've got, like I said, a very small window to re-sign guys. So it makes a very interesting next week here for guys like D5 and JT Toppin and Christian Anderson. Tops on your list of guys that you want to have a pretty good idea if they're going to be coming back. But you get now the it's not flying, not hanging yet, but the Elite Eight run, the Elite Eight banner behind you in year 2 under Grant McCaslin to help you in that recruiting aspect. You know, do you sell it as a way to run it back with guys? You know, you obviously you're checking draft stock and say, hey, like you're not being talked about. You are. Here's what we can offer you. You know, very rare are you going to step into an NBA contract and be able to make a whole lot of money or actually be able to play for an NBA team, and all of the nuance that goes in with you know 350 basketball programs and all their guys that are on rosters, whether they're graduating or pursuing professional playing time before completing a degree. I mean, there's not a lot of roster spots out there, Michael, in the NBA, and it's basically like you got to be in the first round, and even then, not all first rounders are going to be playing. So when you see like draft projections not including D5, you're like, well, I mean, sure, he can still go play professional overseas and make some money. Like you could probably be really competitive with your offer to D5. JT Toppin's draft stuff all over the board. Like I heard Chris Level say, like some mock drafts have them as high as 14th, and then some mock drafts have them back into the second round, which is a really wide window, right? Like, I mean, your top half or you're fighting in the G League. I mean, you could for sure offer him more money if he doesn't make it out of the. Sorry, if he isn't drafted in that first round. Is that what he wants? Is he just after money? I don't know. I haven't spoken to him. I mean, he's still pretty young. I mean, as good as he is, you know, Big 12 Player of the Year, does he want to come back and do it again? Is his stock as high as it's going to get? I mean, his body type's not going to change. I mean, he may be able to add some mass onto him, but like, I mean, he is what he is. D5 is what he is. And then for sure, Christian Anderson, you absolutely want to build around him. Make sure you can retain his services. Lots of guys, though, are out of eligibility, and you wish them the best of luck in their next pursuits, namely Chance McMillan, Kerwin Walton, Elijah Hawkins, Fetty Two-Time. It's just a ridiculous nickname, which is self-given. It's his X handle, but or Instagram. I can't remember which one it is. And then you got 2 years remaining for D5 and Corbin Green, 3 years with Kevin Overton, EY, JT Toppin, Jack Francis, and then your freshman on the team, Mariel Okuntak, who was the mid-year ad, Leon Horner, Christian Anderson, Jazz Henderson. So it'll be probably really quick.
Yes.
Let me see. When is that basketball transfer window?
I'm not really sure, but I know that Toppin was the last one added
It's
in the
open
off
now.
season. Yeah, so I think Toppin was added in May of last year, before I think Corbin Green was added right as the season started, just about. And then, like you mentioned, Akuntak he reclassified as a 2024 player. That way he could join in January.
Yeah.
So, we had some. I didn't realize, we were down 2 players. We had a 13-man team heading into Big 12 play. Essentially, I don't think I fully realized that while it was all happening, with Cambridge out and Akuntak not quite there yet. So
Yeah, and I don't
made it work.
I don't pretend to know, but like it feels awfully strange to have, the limited roster you do, but then to be carrying so many non-contributors. Right? Like Corbin Green, EY, Francis, Akuntak, Horner, Henderson, Cambridge. None of those. I mean, EY played a few minutes. Jack Francis got into games. Horner and Green played a couple of minutes. But like that's a lot of bodies on a short roster that, outside of garbage time, didn't ever sniff the court. And
Yeah.
I don't know if like you could realistically expand that and then manage playing time and personalities and all that kind of stuff, but that seems like half the team should not be non-contributors.
Well, I think that may be kind of where the trends are headed. One, I mean, most of these coaches, and Beard was the same way, had 7-8 men rotations. That was pretty much it.
It just feels too thin.
I agree, but I think that's where we're built with the NIL type of thing. Now that, you want a top guy, well, how much can you fork over for him? And, well, we've spent all our money on these 3 guys, so let's just put 10 people around him and hope for the best, or whatever. There could be some truth to that. I don't want to paint a bad picture or talk too much about things I don't know, which I already do too much anyway. But I could see that being part of it. But I agree, it is kind of, I'm sure these guys are valuable in practice, of course. I mean, that was my role on my basketball team, was to practice pretty much. Show up in the last few minutes when you needed a foul that you didn't want one of your other guys to commit or something like that. So I get the value in that to an extent, but yeah, it is kind of jarring to know that even when Tech was down Toppin and McMillan, or 2 of their starters, they had a 6-man rotation. It was just, okay, well, we're not going to play anybody else. We don't trust these guys enough to have them on the court, so we're just going to go down to 6 men. And that's when I think that was when it really stuck out to me that, yeah, this is a problem. This is a problem to have this many guys that you do not trust to play for you, even when you only have 6 players.
Yeah. Roster building is interesting in these times, Michael.
It sure is.
I'm not jealous of or envious of those that have to deal with that, but I know with the backing of the boosters and supporters of Texas Tech athletics, if there's a player out there that they really want, I'm sure they could put together a competitive offer.
Yeah, and if that player's JT Toppin, more power to you. Would love it.
Yeah, I mean,
back up the Brinks truck to get JT Toppin to come back. I think that would be priority 1 possibly 1A. Williams would be 1B. But I mean, Anderson's up there too.
Anderson's got to be up there too. Yeah, the three
He's
of
got to
them.
be, because we just don't have. Well, I mean, Toppin's got a lot of eligibility left, really, but it would just be so great to have someone like Anderson stick with you for his career. We haven't seen something like that in a while. And Odiase, I believe, may have been the last one that spent all his eligibility at Texas Tech.
I mean, that would have been the same time as Culver, but yeah.
Well, Culver left early.
Well, that's true.
So that's what I'm getting.
He left early
Anderson would leave early too, probably. Who am I kidding?
to play professionally. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's okay. That's obviously an okay thing. If you've got players so good that pursuing professional sports is in the cards and a decision they have to make, which, as you already mentioned, that's what Williams and Toppin are facing right now. Is that the best decision for them to go professional or not? And as always, I'm trying to just look at it as a level-headed, logistical person. I hope they make the best decision for them. Best of luck to them, whatever they do. But man, would it be nice to have those guys back?
Yeah,
would just be thrilled, tickled.
So you look at the names of those that are departing through eligibility or through transfer, and like you would start like we need 1-for-1 replacements for those guys. So your seniors, you've got 3 guards and a big. You really, really, really want to go after an old point guard. Like you want to I talked about this last week. Like you don't want you don't want to repeat Elijah Hawkins, but that's the guy, that's the role that you need, and you've done well the past few seasons or cycles of getting that one and done old guard to come lead the team. Elijah Hawkins, Joe Toussaint, um, the Oklahoma transfer from 3 years ago. What was his name?
It wasn't Demarion Williams, was it?
No.
Davion.
Davion Harmon. Yep.
Davion Harmon. Okay. Sorry. Got the wrong first name.
Guys like that. Then you've got Chance McMillan and Kerwin Walton. A couple of just lights out shooters. And then a big and Fetty. You'd also probably want to replace Devin Cambridge. So you want a forward in there. And this is before trying to address D5, JT Toppin, and Christian Anderson. Obviously, we'll lock those down. But then the guys that are leaving for sure, like I said, through eligibility or transfer, to go get them. Does Kevin Overton want to sign up for another year and be on this playing time situation?
I hope he does. But I think he could play himself into a 6-man pretty easy next year, at the least. Who knows? I mean, he could play himself into a starting position, but man, I like seeing him roll off the bench. And I think Anderson's more comfortable off the bench too, but he's too good. He's got to get to where he's comfortable starting, because that's probably where he belongs, really, especially now that McMillan's gone.
And it's strange to me because, like, you look at his face and you think he's so old. He was just a sophomore this year.
Yeah.
He's got some years left.
I just cannot stress how much I enjoyed switching subjects on you, sort of, but gosh, Elijah Hawkins, man, what a player! What a shot creator, pick and roll machine, good steals, good ball handling, very, very tenacious with keeping the basketball. That wasn't the case the year before necessarily with our point guard, but Hawkins I think he's going to be one of those kind of underrated guys that we talk about in 5-10 years, and then you start looking him up and you go, oh yeah, no, he was a really important part of this team. So I'm glad he came. I'm glad he finished. He and Federico both finishing their eligibility at Texas Tech. That was huge. They had some really big moments in the tournament, obviously, and just throughout the entire year. But Hawkins especially. I was glad to watch him play, and I would have hated to ever have to try to guard him.
Yeah.
Impossible. Fastest man
Um,
alive.
if you look around at the transfer portal, the thing that like, okay, so I mentioned the window. The window for men's basketball opened up a week ago. So you saw a bunch of names of guys hitting the portal already in there. It means you're a week behind. You look at the portal now, look at the guys that have already entered and committed. Um, no surprise here. Bennett Sturts following not dad, coach. I for some reason was making a connection to DeVries. Bennett Sturts following McCollum from Drake to Iowa. Um, Donovan Dent going from New Mexico to UCLA. Adrian Woolley, Deaton Thomas. I'm just reading names. I don't know if anybody recognizes these names, but like there's a handful of guys that have hit the portal, have already committed somewhere else. Um, guys that you would be very, very interested in. Then there are guys that are following, like McCollum's guy Sturts following their coach. You got Texas that's replaced a coach, so that they've already picked up some transfers from Xavier to Texas. Um, teams that are already out of the tournament: Kentucky, Baylor, Michigan, all picking up commits. Um, then you scroll down, you're looking at centers, and it's like, so you recently heard about the center from Kansas hitting Flory Badunga. Um, Magoon Gwath has been a name that has been floated around. He's projected to go to Kentucky, but hasn't committed, from San Diego State. VCR from Arizona is in the portal. Would love to pick him up. I mean, he was kind of salty against Texas Tech a couple times this year. And I'm being a little facetious there. His name is not VCR, but VSAR. Um, so it's I feel like we're stumbling into a December football portal window in basketball now. But I say stumbling because we're coming out of having just lost to such a big emotional game, but you've got to hit the portal running now.
And you've got to have these guys make tough decisions now. As quick as they're comfortable or able to.
Yeah, because if you
It's
have to replace a JT Toppin or Darian Williams, like, you need to know.
Yeah. These
Soon.
players and these coaches are juggling a lot. I mean, if you're going to replace an EY or a Corbin Green, you've got to know that too. You have to know all of it. So it's like you said when we first started talking about this. I don't envy them one bit.
Yeah, I don't either. So we will keep up with basketball roster management as news comes out. You want to give an update on how the ladies' season finished? Because they also came to an
Yes.
end very recently.
Yes, as if one season-ending loss to Florida was not enough. The Lady
Yeah.
Raiders had their own on Thursday before the men took the court. So Thursday night, in the WBIT version of the Sweet 16, Lady Raiders fell to number 3 Florida, 63-67. It was, I wasn't able to watch too much of that when I caught the end of it, but just I think they had a slow start and just really had trouble getting back in it. I mean, I say slow start. They still had 25 points in the second quarter. Texas Tech did, and actually went into halftime ahead, but not able to maintain it throughout the end of the game. Jazz Shavers with 21 points, 4 of 10 from three, made all three of her free throws, uh, 7 of 18 from the field, but unfortunately 8 turnovers. I think that was a lot of the issue there towards the end. Not necessarily her, just turnovers in general, which is apparently a tongue twister for me. And speaking of Jazz Shavers, she did come out on Monday of this week and say that she was going to enter the portal, which I believe she only has 1 year left, if I remember right. So I think she's going to enter the portal for her final year. And for those of you wondering, Gerlich is going to be here. That was confirmed on Friday, the 28th, after Texas Tech's loss to Florida by Hokut himself. So Gerlich's coming back, but Shavers is not. And that's the only bit of news I have on their roster. I'm not sure kind of I know Maya Pete is finished. Her eligibility, a lot of the team's pretty young. I'm not sure if Sonogo was or not, but I know Fritz and Maupin is coming back. Blacklock is coming back. Well, I'm not saying coming back. I'm sorry. They still have eligibility left. I'm not breaking anything, guys. I didn't mean to sound like that. But a lot of the core of this team is pretty young, so they did put something together towards the end of the year. It makes me feel a lot better about the future, but Shavers being gone is a big blow. I mean, I think if she wasn't the highest scorer, it was either her or Maupin. I mean, they were just kind of trading it basically at that point. So it was not going to act like her entering the portal is not a big deal. It definitely is. She's a very solid player. Creates her own shots. Good off the dribble. Has a nice three. Just we'll see what the Lady Raiders are able to do with their time in the portal as well.
Yeah. Let's bounce over to football real quick because Michael, there are things happening on the football front. Spring practice is taking place.
That baseball game's still going, by the way. Almost 4 hours.
Do I even want to know the score?
Was there a rain delay or something?
In Amarillo? No, it's not raining.
Oh, it's in Frisco.
Frisco? It may be raining in Frisco.
Yeah, I don't know. There might have been a delay, but man, it started at 6:30 and we're in the bottom of the ninth. Sorry, you were talking football, and I just
now you got me curious about baseball.
Hey, just scored a run. Just plated a run. Tech went into the ninth down 8-4. They've scored 2. Little 2-out magic going on right now, maybe.
Yeah. Versus number 10, Oklahoma.
Who's up? Yeah, so
it was a triple.
Yeah, Sevatier just hit a triple to left center. Brought in Johnson, and now let's see. At bat is Villeneuve. I'll never get that right.
Villeneuve.
Villeneuve,
sure, which is the most ridiculous way you could pronounce Villanueva.
Villeneuve,
which is how it's spelled.
That's how I would have pronounced it back home. Oh, that's Villeneuve over there. He's good people. Villeneuve. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe some 2-out magic. Anyway, bottom of the ninth. 0-1 count.
Football spring game still happening in 2 weeks, but no time, no day when it's happening.
Yeah.
There was a scrimmage, and we got a video from scrimmage, but I mean, you barely call it highlights. I mean, they were just video clips of who knows what happened, but it's happening. We mentioned portaling happening with basketball. There's a spring. What?
Game's over.
Oh,
Tech loses 8-6.
So they did score another run.
Yeah. Well, that triple brought in 1,
which was 8-5. I thought.
Well, it was 8-5, and then it was 8-6.
Okay, whatever.
They scored 2 in the ninth.
Okay. That's um there's a football portal window opening the 16th through the 25th, but that does not apply to players who lose a head coach. And there at least was a Stanford defensive end, outside linebacker David Bailey, who hit the portal on Friday after his head coach was fired by general manager and I guess acting athletics director Andrew Luck. I thought it was interesting to hear that the general manager for the football program had fired a head coach, but then I heard they were without an athletics director. I was like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
But
I didn't notice that.
that opens up the Stanford roster to be eligible to hit the portal outside of the standard window. And top of the list of players available, David Bailey. And this is a dude that had multiple sacks, multiple forced fumbles. Would be a pretty big pickup. You saw when he hit the portal, and then when it was connected that he was making the trip out to Lubbock, that like, oh, here goes Texas Tech again. They're doing what they did in December. You even got some funny tweets and quote tweets from Cody Campbell. Um, it was a picture of like a businessman, but like obviously like a West Texas business, like he's wearing a suit with a good felt hat on, standing in front of an oil derrick on a cell phone. And the whoever wrote the original tweet was like, this is Cody Campbell whenever a player hits the portal. And then Campbell replied, he's like, basically.
I like that Texas Tech has this reputation now. It's great.
I'm here for it, man.
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun for those couple weeks in December. Because if you weren't batting 1,000, you were very nearly doing so with transfer guys that you brought to campus. They ended up signing. The spring portal window will officially open, like I said, about 2 weeks. You'll probably have some departures from your team, but obviously have the opportunity to add more, including Mr. David Bailey. So that's it's happening. I do want to touch on Colorado, potentially a scrimmage there, but I want to talk about their You see the contract that they announced for Deion Sanders, Michael?
10 million?
10+ million a year.
More than he ever excuse me, more than he ever made as a player.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like 10 million this next couple years, 11 and then a 12. So he's going to average close to 11 million over the next 5 years of the contract. I think it's 5 years, 54 million, which is just astronomically stupid. He's not going to be there 5 years. I wonder how, like, without doing any research, I wonder how much that's guaranteed. But my goodness, that's a lot of money for Colorado to be forking over for Deion Sanders to make him, I believe, the highest paid coach in the Big 12 and one of the highest in all of college football. You remember, Michael? No, it doesn't even feel like that long ago, but like $3-4 million was like tops. Like,
That was insane. I
like,
remember
oh my
Les
gosh.
Miles making something like that at some point, and you just thought, golly.
And then you heard of like
there's no coming back from this.
Nick Saban hitting 5, like, oh my gosh, $5 million.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have a handful of coaches making 10, 12. It's like, what are we doing? So yeah, there's Colorado news for you. I just didn't know if you wanted to try to segue that into a potential scrimmage idea.
Well, I don't know much about it aside from Joey McGuire apparently kind of dropped that bombshell on his podcast. He would be interested in trying to schedule some sort of scrimmage or practice or something with Colorado at the Star, which sells itself. You know, you got Deion Sanders coming to a Cowboys facility. That's that. That would probably garner quite a bit of interest, but that's I like those ideas. I think the following week, he mentioned something about setting up a scrimmage against. I think he mentioned like UTOU and or A&M or something, and none of them are going to pick up the phone, but it was nice of him to at least mention it. I think Colorado is much more attainable, or Oklahoma State or somebody to try to do something like that. But it kind of threw me for a loop with all the jazz about people canceling spring games and trying to go away from that. Where and McGuire is kind of the opposite of no, let's
And
take the
schedule
team on the
somebody.
road. Yeah, let's schedule something. Let's hit someone else other than us for a day.
I
And
like the idea of scheduling somebody. And if you're going to go within the conference, pick somebody that's not on your schedule because Colorado is not on your 2025 schedule.
yeah, and they've got a completely, not completely, but the core playmakers. Well, Shadur Sanders isn't there, so it's kind of
Or
like
Travis Hunter.
it's a different group of guys anyway. So might as well just scrimmage them, and I could see that being appealing to Sanders, getting his guys in front of another squad and kind of seeing what he's got. But I like it. I mean, I like thinking outside the box. Obviously, you want to worry about injuries and other things, but I mean, I think people crave football this time of year. The Stars indoors, you could have it unless there's a tornado outside, but that does happen in North Texas, so there's no telling what the
Yeah,
weather
but
could be doing.
probably not this early in the spring.
Probably, but baseball size hail and Bernie weekend ago says otherwise. But it is just it's a cool concept. It's a cool idea. I'd be open to doing that with. I didn't consider the fact that Tech does have Oklahoma State on their schedule, I believe. So maybe
Mhm.
that's not such a good idea.
Yeah, I was looking at the schedule for this upcoming season. You don't play. So you got Utah, BYU. You don't have Arizona this year.
For what about
You
Arizona State?
you do have Arizona State. You don't
Ah,
have Iowa State. You don't have Cincinnati. Um, you don't have Baylor or TCU.
I think you'd really okay. So that opens the door for those.
Baylor.
Yeah,
That's probably an easy one. Just schedule Baylor and Dallas
sure. And
or San
you would
Antonio.
you would want one
Not San
that would
Antonio.
be fun. Let's go to the Alamo Dome, Alamo Bowl, not Alamo. Wait, what's it
I,
called?
I think it's the dome. I think it's Alamo
It
Dome.
is the dome, Alamo Dome. I got it confused with the Astrodome in my head, which made no sense. But
Alamo Dome. One word.
I wouldn't want to do it against Iowa State or somebody. I think it needs to be. I consider Colorado somewhat regional, and the obvious tie to the Dallas Cowboys would be uh, a great selling point to have it in Dallas at the Star or whatever. But I think for something like this, you'd want regional. You wouldn't want Cincinnati or somebody
Or
in
SMU.
in Kansas City or. Well, yeah, that's true. SMU would be an interesting one, but I like it. I like thinking outside the box, kind of coming up with different ways to uh, to get some practice in and just to have the fans involved.
Like you can even have it like still a pared down open scrimmage and do the ridiculous scripting that you would do against yourself, but do it against somebody else.
Yeah, not do kickoffs. Do away with the obvious injury prone kind of plays and uh, just take advantage of not having to tackle your own guys for a week.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap up with baseball since we're going a little bit long. Talk about the basketball season ending. We'll do a full season recap on basketball soon. Talk about expectations of where it landed, and obviously do the roster management stuff. But obviously, they fell tonight against Oklahoma and Frisco. That drops them to 8-17 on the season. Michael, I'm checked out, man. They got swept this past weekend versus Kansas State to drop down to 4-5 in Big 12 play. They lost 10-5 on Friday, 6-3 on Saturday, 6-3 on Sunday. You actually had a lead late in that Sunday game.
It's actually 8-17. That was before the
I
Oklahoma
think I
loss
said that,
tonight. Oh, you
but
did? Okay,
if I
sorry.
didn't, then I was just reading straight off the notes. I at least thought I know that that was from when we put the notes together, and I was like, I need to make sure I say 17, but if I didn't, there it is. 8-17, 4-5 in Big 12 play. You played Oklahoma now for a couple of years as a non-conference opponent. Now this is truly a non-conference opponent. Um, you will take on Cincinnati this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They are last in the Big 12. Um, so you went from playing the team that was in first, Kansas State, that was 5-1.
Sorry, that's old. That's from last week because we're tied with them now.
Oh,
I'm
so
trying to
they
I'm trying to fix that. They're 17-11 and 4-5. So they've kind of rattled off a few
then they just
since the
swept
last
their
game.
conference series
Yeah.
and then won their midweek. So never mind about them being last in the Big 12, but they are your next home series, and then you get a midweek on Tuesday in Albuquerque on the Mountain West Digital Network. Maybe, Michael, this isn't a pay-per-view. We have to pay $8 to watch this game, but we'll see because Peak TV wanted $8.11 to watch the Oklahoma game tonight, and I'm not about that. But
No, no, not if you can avoid it.
I'd give you some more hard-hitting analysis, but when you are 9 games under 500, I'm 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 almost checked out on baseball, and it's April 1st.
Well, I mean, the only good news right now is with Tech being tied seventh with Baylor, Cincinnati, and BYU. Tech plays Cincinnati and Baylor next, so they have a chance to claw back up, hopefully a little bit, or at least distance themselves
From the bottom.
from the bottom. That would be that would be ideal.
Yeah. Well, I punched the microphone. Let's we do have a couple questions. Let's do those and then wrap up. So
Okay, I'm gonna ask. I'm gonna ask you. So we kind of know where you were during Saturday's game, what all was going on. But is there anything you did to cope with Saturday's loss? I do have an answer, but I want to ask you first.
no. I was
No.
gonna be snarky about it because the question you have written is how did you cope with Saturday's loss? I'm gonna say
Mm-hmm.
poorly because I'm not dealing with it. No, I
I
don't
just
have
meant
anything
was there
specific.
something you did or didn't do or specifically changed your routine or whatever that day afterwards?
No,
Did you
because
abstain from social media? Did you
I tried to because I did not want to like I expected there to be a lot of fraud and hold on.
Schadenfreude?
Schadenfreude, there it is.
Schaden
Schadenfreude in our general direction after what happened on Thursday to have it happen to us, and then opposing fan bases piling on, obviously jealous fan bases that weren't in the position to be playing for an Elite Eight or sorry for a Final Four themselves. Utah, you didn't even make the freaking tournament. I don't know why you've been so yappy. Like, sit down and shut up. Take notes. Get better. I don't know. Just stay the heck out of my timeline with all your
didn't
nonsense.
didn't Tech beat him by 30 at home?
Yeah,
Something like that? Yeah.
but they've been so yappy. It's like,
Wow.
who are you? What
No idea.
you,
Makes no
do you
sense.
play basketball? Um, no, I didn't change anything. Like I said, I was at a baseball game, in a game where we got beat pretty bad. Um, and it was like it wasn't that we played a good team that beat us by playing good baseball. We played a okay team that beat us when we played very, very poorly.
Hmm.
Um, the time expired while they had a runner on base and then their batter hit essentially a triple, but it was like a little league triple where we just like committed a couple errors, so he got around, and then he got in a rundown between third base and home, and like the game would have ended as soon as that play ended. So the coach on third could have just, you know, called his runner back, told him to step on the base. Game would have ended. They would have beaten us 13-0.
Oof.
But no, douchebag of the year kept egging on the rundown, and he's within his right to do so. You can be a douchebag of the year, and that can be your choice. But no, he had to score one more run and celebrated like they just won the Super Bowl or something, or Little League World Series, something, jumping up and down, screaming top of his lungs, like, what is we doing? Like, we did that to ourselves. Like, we could have made a play, we could have stopped him, we could have kept him from putting up 14 runs if we had played any better. Did one run make a difference in anything? No. Like, beating us 13-0 would have still been really frustrating, but losing 14-0 because of that was like also like, what are we doing? What are we doing? So no, I was supremely frustrated from that. There was an instance where I thought Grayson said yes when the coach told him he was going to be taken off uh, and sit, because the team is so large. Like they have to rotate a bunch of guys off. So
Yeah.
very few play the entire game. So I was like, there's an attitude problem that we've got to adjust. Then all this nonsense that happened on the field. No, it was just not a good night. What
Well,
about you, Michael? Long story. That was a lot of stuff. No, I did nothing good. What did you do?
well, the way I cope, apparently, and this seems to happen a lot. So the first thing I do is when they're interviewing the coaches and whatnot of the winning team. Hang on. Sorry, got choked up. But no, I immediately turn the TV off. That is. I realize like I'm on my phone, I'm checking something, and then I look up and they're interviewing the team, and we just never lost our belief in ourselves and our okay, that's enough. So that's the first thing I do. It just so happened that that was the game ended right as it was time to start getting ready for the bedtime routine
Mm.
for our little one. So we got that taken care of. Then apparently my idea of coping is ignoring my phone and playing SnowRunner on Xbox till like 1:15 in the morning.
Oh wow.
That was not my intent. I just thought, yeah, I'm just going to relax a little bit and I'll go to bed normal time, 9:30, 10 or whatever.
We'll try
It
to wind
was
down.
yeah, try to wind down. The next thing you know, I'm in Alaska just driving all across this map and doing that thing that you always do. Okay, well, I'll do one more mission. And you do that one more mission and your trailer turns over. And so you've got to go get another truck to bail your truck out, and then that one turns over, and just, that happens like 3 times, and then it's 1:15 in the morning. So that's how I cope. Is apparently I just cut off the world and play a off-road / logistics simulation game for 5 hours. Okay, I had a second question.
Okay.
Do you plan on watching any of the final 3 games, and if so, which ones?
I don't plan on it. No.
I
It's one of those things where it's like it's going to be too personal, too close. Like especially if Auburn like whips up on Florida. Like man, we should be in that spot right now.
Oh yeah,
We
there's no
should.
good answer to that. There's yeah, because if
Or
Florida,
Florida beats Auburn. Like man, we almost
we
had
could have beat
Florida.
them. Yes, exactly. Yeah, you could talk yourself into any scenario. I do think I'm kind of like you. I'm not gonna plan my day around it. But the Houston, I am gonna try to watch Houston. They have the late game on Saturday, and of course the championship tips off at 7:50 on Monday. So if they're in that, I do think I would watch them. And and root for them in the sense that you can root for a team that I just went 5 minutes on about how much I would rather be 2-1 versus them than have a national championship almost. But anyway, I think that would. I might watch some Houston. I'm going to ignore the Florida Auburn game. I don't think I want anything to do with that one. No good will come of that. Watching that, but Houston Duke, and then if it comes down to where it's like Duke Florida in the championship, I may skip it. If it's Duke Auburn, maybe
Yeah. Okay.
maybe I watch it, but I don't know.
I will agree with you that no, I will not watch Florida Auburn.
No, I can't do it.
I would tune in and pick up some of the Houston Duke game, and then I'll probably watch. I can't say for sure, but I would probably watch some of the title game. Um,
Yes, there's just a FOMO level of a title game. You feel like you're really you have to tune in even if you're
yeah,
not really that invested. You just feel like you need to.
yeah. All right, let's wrap this up with what did we learn, Michael? I learned, and I've said this now in the past couple of seasons when I said I was not going to coach Grayson's team, and it's happened both years now. Is like, man, this would be so much better if I was coaching, and not, and I don't mean to say like we'd be winning all these games, but I would feel much more in control of it. Like if we lost, like okay, that's just because I'm just not a very good coach, or I'm just on the outside, like I'm not within the inner circle of all the travel ball teams that come over here and put together their little league all-star rosters in February and all this nonsense. Um, it's tough because what the league ended up doing, I probably said this already, but what the league did is they drafted 6 teams in Grayson's division with only having 5 coaches signed up. So they were like, to make it like we have enough players, if we draft 6 teams, there will be 6 teams of 9 or 10 kids. So we're just going to draft a sixth team, and then try to recruit a coach to take over this team. I should have done it. I should have taken it because apparently, supposedly, the coach of the American League, so like they're in his age group, there are 2 divisions, American and National. American is the top; they're the best of the best of the best with honors, sir. National, the younger guys just coming up into this division, and those that are just not very good. The national coach, the American League coach drafted this team and said several of the players could have made the American team. And he drafted it in such a way that he would have wanted to coach this team. The other thing is it was a team of 10 players. But now because that team had to get broken up and split 5 ways, there are 5 teams of 15 players, which is a little bit more difficult to handle when Little League has mandatory play rules. So like everybody has to play, everybody has to bat.
Yeah, that's really tough.
And it's just so stupid. Like Saturday, Grayson got to bat once,
Mm.
and he was in the field. Well, he had to be in the field for 2 innings, but for 6 outs. But
That's a lot for a coach to juggle too.
yeah, because you don't know if a team like if you sub a player in or out, if they're going to get their mandatory 6 outs. So it's just stupid. So it's just there's been some frustrating moments, and I told Samantha, I was like, I'm getting that feeling again that I should have coached, and I have to like remind myself I made a conscious decision not to coach. One, because we have 2 kids playing in baseball, so I couldn't pick one over the other.
Yeah.
But also when I coached, I was the head coach once, no, twice. I was head coach twice, but one of those years it was COVID, and we should have shut that year down and split that team up. Because on the flip side, we had like everybody drop off the team, and we ended up playing with like 6 or 7 guys. That was not enough. But yeah. Anyways, not going well. Baseball's not going well. I mean, I say that we're 3 games in. We're 1-2. We are bad news bears. But we played a team last night that is as bad as we are. So we end up walking them off. Anyways, that's what I learned. I say I shouldn't coach baseball, and then I'm 3 games in, like, oh, I should be coaching this team.
I knew it. I knew it the whole time.
What about you? What'd you learn?
Well, I have a going yard update.
You steal my thunder?
It's no. Because okay. Now remember, I have a new fleet, if you will, of lawn equipment. I've gone cordless. I've gone electric.
You taking back over your lawn care? Because I know for a season you at least a season you had a crew coming by.
I did, but let's see. I think I did that 1 year, maybe 2. But I've been back at it. I've been back in the ring the last 3 or 4 years. I do have
It's been a while then.
no. I have someone come by and spray the yard every quarter, or 6 times a year.
That's okay.
Like they do the spraying and the weeding, but I still do the actual
Maintenance.
the lawn part.
Okay.
So, Saturday, the equipment was just in the garage boxed up,
Just
and
gathering dust, itching to be used.
yes, and so I spent a good chunk of it just getting it all out of the boxes, tearing down the boxes, all that kind of stuff, getting it set up,
lining it up in the yard,
and
taking
then
pictures, posting on your Instagram account.
No photos, please, no interviews. But
respect my decision.
Yeah. So the 3 batteries that came with it, this is the 40-volt system. The 3 batteries that came with it were just completely dead. I was hoping they'd at least be
helpful. Thanks.
Yeah. And so okay, well, I'll plug those in. So I plug them in, and we're getting closer and closer to tip off. And I've got a bunch of full batteries, and the wind just came in out of nowhere, and I just thought
sucked on Saturday.
That was so disappointing because it was such a beautiful day.
Oh, it was gorgeous until like 5 o'clock.
It was the most perfect soccer day. E had her first soccer game. I don't know what we won by. It was like 11-0. I'm not even sure. She had a couple of assists.
Yeah, she did.
She's playing middle, so that kid is running like nonstop, and she's getting really much better about running to the correct spot and kind of seeing where she needs to go next, as opposed to just reacting. Anyway, really proud of her. But we had just a gorgeous day, and then all that crap started blowing in right at tip off. But my batteries were charged, Spencer. So what did I do?
Gotta go.
It was like 450, and I wasn't really paying attention because I bought the individual edger. I think I told you that. It's just an edger. It's not an edger attachment. It's not whatever. I spent the extra dollars because I've been using an edger attachment on a weed eater for 16 years now, and it sucks, and I was sick of it.
I really like mine. I hate having to switch it out, like to shut down the engine, switch it, and then start it back up.
Especially when you have a weed eater that won't start.
Oh, mine's pretty good at starting, but it's also newer. It's probably 2 years old now.
Well, this is my second one in that 16-year stretch, so it's probably at least 8 years old. But anyway, I thought, well, okay, I've got one of these charged. I'm just going to go turn this one on. And so I go turn on the edger, and I try it along the driveway, and I'm kind of messing around with it, and I'm having a little trouble getting it just right. It's operator error because this is all new to me. And then I start
dial it in. Your first, like, is it too deep? Is it right up and down?
Exactly. And that was the thing. It was too deep at first. There's a lot of ways to adjust it, which is so cool, and it actually works. And it kicks the grass away from you as opposed to towards you.
Oh, that sucks. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was kicking it away, and next thing you know, Spencer, I'd lost track of time. The girls had left for that birthday party I told you about. I'd edged the entire front yard because it was that fast and it was going that well. And I was like,
on a corner lot, so there's a lot of edge.
It's a lot of edge, and I completely missed tip off. Like I come in and it was already like at the 16-minute timeout, and I was like, oh man, I just, so for the first time I learned that I can get caught up in lawn care.
Careful, Michael.
To the point where I've missed the tip off of an Elite 8 game. But
slippery slope, man.
It is. So I think tomorrow though, I'm going to try the mower out tomorrow because, man, with the weather coming, there's just enough green poking through that Bermuda that I think I need to knock it down before that rain hits.
Have you scalped yet?
I have not. I'm not really
Oh, it's gonna take you a minute then.
I don't really do that too much, but yeah, it's going to be rough. It's going to be one of those where I'm going to wear like a mask while I'm mowing because it's just going to be dirt and crap.
Dude, the first couple are gonna be like that because it's gonna be a lot
Yes.
of dust from not just the air, the dust from eastern New Mexico that gets deposited in your front yard,
Mm-hmm.
but just the dust of cutting dormant Bermuda grass and just the
Yeah,
come in,
it's gonna be rough. I
change
thought about
clothes in
I
the
know.
laundry room, immediately jump in the shower.
I
Yeah,
thought about keeping my gas mower just so I could do these first couple of mows, but I just needed it out of the garage. I found a good home for it. There's a college kid who needs a mower, so I feel much better about that.
needed a mower,
Needed. Yes, the need has been fulfilled.
and you're like, best of luck, dude.
The mower's great. The weed eater is awful, but the weed
Oh,
eater
okay.
came with the mower. He had no choice.
You get both. Good
You
luck.
get both. I don't know what happens to the weed eater. I don't need to know. The mower's fantastic. It had been sitting since November, Spencer, and during the season, 9 times out of 10, it starts with one pull. But even sitting since November, 5 pulls. Sucker fired right up. It's ready to go. I felt like I owe it to him. I had to make sure it started before I dropped it off. But the weed eater didn't even try. Don't care. I'd probably still be trying. Throw out my shoulder.
Yeah. I I've mowed 3 times already. Like I scalped and I've mowed 3 times. It's growing fast enough now that once a week is not often enough.
Oh my gosh.
I
That
also
is
have it's because I scalp. It's not that my grass is green, nobody else is green. Nobody else has cut it short so that you don't see their green grass. I scalped almost a month ago now. So I opened up the canopy, I exposed the dirt to some more sunlight and some warmth, and good things are happening at the Rogers household in terms of
I don't
grass.
mind it. I don't mind mine being as dormant as long as possible. I'm okay with it.
I'm fighting the urge really strongly, Michael, but I'm losing it in my mind about buying a powered reel mower. I'm
Oh
not
my.
I'm not there yet in terms of like the yard being level enough. I am going to try to level it this spring, this summer. I have a manual push reel mower that makes, for it being relatively new, it's a couple years old now. For it being as new as it is, it makes a lot of noise. Like, oh, can we not figure out how to make something a little less noisy?
Especially with no
Like
no
it was
motor.
noisy, yeah, out of the box. It's just like
Yeah.
yeah. There's a guy on the end of our street on the corner lot that does level his lawn every year, and like he reel mows. It's like, oh man, that's what I want to do. I don't want to own an old reel mower and have it be like its own little project and tinker. But also,
Mhm.
I don't want to spend $1,000 on a mower, $1,200 on a new one.
I kind of like
Even
those.
used ones are like $400 or $500. It's like, golly.
I think just for the novelty of it, I think I would like one of those British ones. Have you seen those?
Ooh, the yes, the Allet.
Yeah, I can't even describe what they are, but uh, it's a completely different mechanism than just the standard slap a Briggs and Stratton motor on top of a spinning blade. I
On top of
forget
a
what.
sideways blender. Yeah.
Yeah. I forget how they. What's so different about it?
they're
But I
like
remember.
they're like cartridge based, where like you can switch out the mower blades and the other attachments that you would want to do with short lawns, but like it's a whole cartridge and you just drop it in. And then there's like I don't know if it's American made or if it's also European. There's a brand called Swordsman,
Mm,
and they're really good too, but they're also way expensive. We're talking several $1,000s. Um,
Yeah, when I look up British mower, it just comes
Swartman.
up with the push reels, which isn't. That's not the one I'm talking about. There was one that James May was working on, the guy from uh, Grand Tour and Top Gear. And maybe that's it. Maybe it is just a real mower. Maybe I'm talking about the same thing.
Yeah, maybe. That'll do it for us in 23 Personal Podcast. Getting you ready for yard season. If you haven't scalped yet, you should. If you haven't put down your pre-emergent, you should. You should all probably at this point also be putting down a post-emergent. If you missed your pre-emergent, it's not too late. Never too late. But get to mowing and get some green grass sooner rather than later. It's my time to be outside, free of the kids, clear my mind. It could be yours too. But anyway, that'll do it. I'm Michael Spencer. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you for listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast. Help us out by subscribing, rating the show, and leaving a review. Follow us on Twitter at 23 Personnel, Spencer at FunSuck, and Michael at Michael_LBK. Be sure to catch the next episode. And until then, guns up and let the tortillas fly.
Alrighty then.